dead weight in the dark. The ice storm off the shoulder of the rings of Triton didn't show up on standard radar. It registered only as a sudden, violent drop in hull temperature and the sound of iron rain tearing at the outer plating. Harlan adjusted the fuel-air mix on the Boreas, feeling the heavy freighter shudder in his boots. She was an old K-series haul ship, 30,000 tons of dense tungsten lithium batteries in bulk wheat bolted to a pair of sputtering fusion drives. Cargo runs through the Jovian Gap to the outer rim were long, boring, and quiet, right up until the moment they turned into a meat grinder. A red light strobed on the secondary overhead console. Fuel injector 4 was overheating again. Hold together. Old girl, Harlan muttered, tapping the glass casing until the digital readout settled. He pulled down his harness, cinched it tight, and punched the manual overrides. He didn't trust the ship's autopilot inside the gap. The automated guidance systems were programmed to preserve the vessel at all costs, which usually meant dumping the cargo module to save the engine block. Harlan didn't get paid if he didn't deliver the grain. The cockpit dark screen flared bright white as a stray chunk of flash-frozen methane cracked against a reinforced canopy. The Boreas lurched, her thrusters whining as they auto-compensated for the spin. Then the long-range comms array pinged, a clean, rhythmic signal cutting straight through the static of the radiation belt. Not an anomaly, Harlan thought, his hands freezing on the yoke. A transponder tag. Too sleek. Stripped-down interceptors drifted out from the wake of an icy asteroid, their hulls painted in light-absorbent matte black. Free trader marks, but nobody called them that out past Saturn. They were scavengers, cutters equipped with high-yield mining lasers meant for slicing through freighter bulkheads like hot wire through tallow. Unidentified freighter. A voice rasp-scratched through the speaker, distorted by atmospheric drift. Cut your drives and disengage your cargo lock. Leave the pod in the drift, and you keep your life support. Harlan didn't answer. Answering meant negotiating, and negotiating took time he didn't have. Instead, he slammed the starboard maneuvering thrusters, kicking the Boreas 40 degrees off its vector, directly toward the core of the ice storm. Crazy bastard, the radio spit back. The interceptors closed fast, their superior thrust allowing them to dance around the floating glacial debris while the heavy freighter wallowed like a wounded whale. A ruby beam of focus heat slammed into the port cargo frame, boiling the outer skin away. The cockpit reeked of ozone and scorched polymer. Harlan jammed the throttle forward, bypassing the safety governors. The fusion drives roared, pushing 3 Gs of raw force straight into his chest. Vision narrowed at the edges. His teeth clicked together under his helmet. He was flying blind into a field of drifting 0-G icebergs, steering purely by force feedback to the mechanical yoke. Behind him, the first scavenger got greedy, swooping in close to land a breach pod on the freighter's flank. The black interceptor failed to clear a house-sized block of black ice spinning in the shadow of the ship. The collision didn't make a sound in the vacuum, just a silent, blinding blossom of orange flame and scattered debris. One down. The second interceptor held back, firing its primary laser in short, disciplined bursts, chewing through the freighter's thermal shielding. Alarm klaxons howled in 3 different tones. Depressurization in cargo hold 3, hydraulic fluid loss in the main steering vane, and catastrophic heat buildup in drive core 2. Warning. Drive meltdown imminent in 60 seconds, the synthetic computer voice announced calmly. Harlan bared his teeth through the pressure. He reached across the primary junction board, pulled a mechanical emergency pin on drive 2, and manually locked the fuel line wide open. You want the cargo? He growled into the dark, pulling the heavy release lever that decoupled the auxiliary engine housing from the main spine of the ship. Take the heat. He fired the explosive bolts. The failing second drive separated from the Boreas, tumbling backward into void, its core burning with the unstable fury of a mini-nova. The surviving pirate ship, riding hot on the freighter's tail to line up a killing shot, pulled up too late. The rogue engine block detonated 50 meters from its cockpit, the electromagnetic pulse and shrapnel shredding its flight controls and sending it spinning hopelessly out into the deep dark of the Kuiper Belt. The shockwave hit the Boreas hard, spinning the massive ship 3 full rotations before Harlan could catch the roll with his remaining thrusters. When the motion finally stopped, the silence inside the cockpit was deafening, broken only by the hiss of emergency oxygen and the steady, slow beep-beep of the distressed beacon. Harlan unbuckled his harness, wiped a streak of sweat and grease from his forehead, and looked out the cracked canopy glass. The ice field was fading behind him, a distant cloud of glittering dust catching the dim light of faraway Sunday ahead lay the long, empty stretch to Europa Station. He checked the board. 1 engine left, 10% maneuvering fuel, frame severely compromised. He reached into his flight jacket, pulled out a stale protein strip, tore it open with his teeth, and put both hands back on the wheel. Just another day on the long haul.